Video game journalists always have the worst opinions possible, and now an IGN reviewer is getting absolutely wrecked by gamers for saying AI Limit is a mediocre 5 when they've previously written games like Avowed and Concord at 7, and people are rating this very positively. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, we're seeing a bit of a horror movie situation going on where typically reviewers rate horror movies really negatively for some reason, and the same is happening with video games and Souls likes. Typically, Souls likes do not get good ratings, and we've always joked about how, oh, it's because these people can't actually play these games because they're too difficult. These people can't even get through tutorials for titles like Cuphead, never mind getting through a complete Souls-like experience and beating every single boss. And now AI Limit is one of the latest on the block, and while gamers are really loving it, IGN's having a bit of a tough time with it. They're not enjoying it as much as they thought they would, apparently. So this is by Travis Northrup. It says, like any Souls-like fan, I'm quite accustomed to the process of dying over and over again until I've mastered a tough section, but playing through AI Limit was the first time I felt that sense of learned repetition before I'd even died at all. That's because aside from its anime-inspired art style and a few minor abilities you unlock throughout the story, this by-the-numbers adventure is without question the most milquetoast and unimaginative game I've played in the genre. Now, I personally have not gotten a chance to play this myself yet. I'm waiting to live stream it, and I've been live streaming Assassin's Creed Shadows, nearly done with that, and First Berserker Kazan, which is definitely one of my games of the year already. I don't think that there are going to be many games that are going to top that. It's been an amazing experience so far, but this looks really good. I've watched quite a bit of gameplay of this. I've read a lot of reviews. Gamers are really happy with it. Looks right up my alley. I know I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it because I did also really enjoy the demo, but to hear this person come out and say that it's the most bland experience and it's milquetoast and unimaginative when much about this game does look imaginative and does look really good is, I guess, not really shocking coming from a game reviewer, but it is disappointing because this does seem to have a lot going for it, and he's one of the only people I've seen that has this opinion. It says, it pit me against boring and meager enemies, laughably wimpy bosses I was largely able to stomp dead without issue, and a story with almost as little to say as its dull protagonist. Yet this guy is really somebody who would give something like Avowed a 7. Okay, Avowed was not as bad as something like Dragon Age the Veilguard, but it was definitely not even close to a 7. I gave Avowed a 4 because I felt that it had decent gameplay, it had decent graphics, it had decent pacing, but the story itself was really bad. The game didn't have a lot of depth to it. The world felt very hollow and empty. There was quite a lot of bugs and glitches. Like, it's just crazy to me that these types of people praise games like Concord and Avowed, but then they trash things like this when they clearly have just this personal hatred against a certain type of graphics and art style or storytelling or even genres because they tend to be too hard for them. He says the actual action is largely an impression of better Souls-likes. You'll split your time between exploring dark and dangerous places, fending off smaller enemies as you work your way to the next bonfire-like checkpoint, in this case branches sprouting out of the ground, a confronting big menacing boss with, long health bars and deadly attacks. But heading down to the verdict, it says AI Limit is a Souls-like without any soul, providing 30 mediocre hours of dodge rolling and sword swinging that's good for little more than filling time. I sliced my way through repetitive goons in unremarkable locations, killed some pushover bosses who were dead before I thought to learn their names, and spent more time recovering from game crashes than learning anything noteworthy about the bland sci-fi setting or characters within it. And they're just basically saying that, like, it's completely unremarkable, it's just not all that great, it's a forgettable experience, and this individual is getting raked across the coals by gamers. Now, of course, everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. He just didn't like it, but that doesn't mean we can't point and laugh at his opinion because he is way off base with how real gamers feel, because the game customer reviews for AI Limit are sitting at very positive with over 3,000, and there really isn't a lot of negativity here. There's not really a lot of people saying like it's trash or it's awful, it's terrible, I didn't like it. There's people saying yes, it might be a little bit too simple at times, but the gameplay itself is amazing. It's not doing anything really new, but what it is doing is it's doing competently and without issues. It's not too hard, not too easy. Story seems to be decent, gameplay's fun. Basically, an anime Souls that just does everything really well. And sometimes that's the best you can ask for. Not everything needs to reinvent the wheel. I say this all the time about video games. There are developers who try to go out of their way to reinvent certain systems and then they make them overly complicated. And I get that they want to make something new and they want to stand out in a genre, but sometimes the best thing you can do is just doing the best in every category that already exists. Elden Ring is my favorite game of all time. It was my first foray into Dark Souls, as the genre previously intimidated the hell out of me. I have over 200 hours in the game across Xbox and PS5 and purchased it a third time for PC. But wow, this game scratches that itch. It's polished, it runs smooth as butter on Steam Deck. There's even a Steam Deck graphics preset available, but I'm using all high settings on my Steam Deck OLED and everything is running flawlessly. It's anime Dark Souls with a distinctive and fun fighting style. The art direction is chef's kiss in my book. I was always really interested, initially because of the gameplay, of course, but also the art style. It was very eye-catching. I can't wait to finally put a lot of time into this. Rewarding exploration, intriguing story, fun combat. I really like the game. I went into this game not quite sure what to expect. Souls likes are a dime a dozen these days, so in order to stand out, they really need to set themselves apart. And does AI Limit manage to achieve that? Well, yes and no. For people that expected it to be another Code Vein, it most assuredly is not. What it is a game that tries to return to the roots of what made me fall in love with this little subgenre of gaming, which is really good to hear. And taking to X, people are mocking this reviewer, saying they are completely out of touch with gamers. Not that we ever really expected game journos to be in touch with gamers. They constantly have differing opinions. They constantly rate games poorly that gamers love or rate games that gamers hate highly, and they just always look like buffoons. But people are saying things like IGN gave one of the best games of all time, God Hand, a 3. That's the day I stopped trusting them way back then. Absolutely crazy opinion to have. Always keep track of these reviewers. Sometimes they will conveniently change their tune in order to protect the message, archive everything, which definitely does happen. And I get that sometimes experiences might be really similar and they might give something 1 point higher or 1 point lower, but at least they're in the same realm of scores. But sometimes they will completely trash something for a reason they've previously propped another game up for. These IGN reviewers play the tutorial and first chapter and then they express their opinion on the game like they finished the game. The same thing happened with Black Myth Wukong and it drove me crazy. They, for a year leading up to release, were trashing game science and this team and the game in general. At first it was, oh, it doesn't look real, it looks like it's AI, and then they switched it to, oh, well, these developers are sexists and misogynists. And then the game came out and they rated it okay, but they said a big problem they had was that there weren't any females in the game, but there is a full chapter with only females within the game, so they clearly didn't make it to, I believe it was like the halfway mark from what I remember, with all of the pretty spider ladies, but they didn't make it to that point, so they basically told on themselves that they hadn't played the game. Do not trust people. I say this all the time. Do not trust reviewers. Don't even trust your favorite content creator when it comes to games. If they are doing a playthrough and it looks like an opinion you might yourself have, take that into consideration, but ultimately judge for yourself. If you think something looks really good, even if everybody's trashing it, go ahead and buy it. And if everybody is, praising a game that you think looks like trash, don't buy into the hype. Always take everything with a grain of salt, especially coming from people like this, because games journalism at this point in time is an absolute joke. And I can't say I'm surprised that they've completely trashed AI Limit, but this IGN guy definitely did that, and he is getting wrecked by gamers over his seemingly completely out of touch opinion. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.